2016 student government. We good?
Yeah.
All right. Welcome to the DePaul 2016 student government candidate interviews. I'm Brendan Moore, the news editor for the DePaul. In just a few moments, you're going to hear from executive level candidates for student government. They're going to be answering our questions as well as some of yours. You can follow along with the hashtag DPUelect on Twitter. Our first candidate up is Michael Greene, who is running for Executive Vice President for Academic Affairs. Welcome, Michael.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah. Quickly, what's your year and your major?
I am a freshman here at DePaul, and I am majoring in digital cinema with a concentration in cinema production with a minor in writing for film and television.
And can you kind of tell us what your previous experience with SGA is and with other student organizations, and then name some of your top 3 initiatives?
Absolutely. Past organizations that I've been with SGA for almost more than 5 years now. I've done it in middle school, high school, and now here on the collegiate level. It's been a very fun process going up and seeing how each level tackles it from middle school, high school, and the collegiate level. Other organizations that I'm here with DePaul is Act Out, Digital Cinema Collaborative, SGA, as we know, for the Center of Computing and Digital Media. I was a part of the men's rowing team for a while, but wanted to commit more to student government and other programs that I was a part of. 3 of my top initiatives that I'm doing is education affordability, making sure that I work with other senators and the treasurer as well when it comes to everything is accessible to students, whether it's through grants or scholarships, just being transparent and letting them know, also working with Scholarship Connect. Another one would be campus affinity and inclusivity and collaboration within the classroom as well, making sure we talk about these sensitive topics in the classroom, because right now we are in a tough election cycle, and I just want to make sure that everyone's viewpoints are heard and spoken in a respectful manner. And then lastly is just making sure that the students and the faculty and administration have a way that they can talk directly to one another and that it's in a nice discourse community.
Mm-hmm. And you kind of brought it up in one of your points about this is a tough election cycle.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a lot of rhetoric going around. In some meetings with the Black Student Union, Father Holtschneider, Black Student Union detailed microaggressions that have happened in the classroom, meaning racial biases that might be hard for others to notice. What needs to be done about microaggressions, and what role does SGA play in it, if at all?
SGA definitely plays a role into how the classroom environment happens with students and faculty and teachers. When it comes to the Black Student Union, we do have a liaison for the Black Student Union that comes and they express their concerns. We just had a meeting with Father Holtschneider where he has a set list of plans in which he is going to execute to make sure that in the classroom it is safe for everyone.
I think that the student government has a role in extending that dialogue beyond Father Holtschneider's actions?
Absolutely. That's also talking with other students and making sure that they know that, yes, they can express how they feel and they are getting their voice out, but there is a fine line between hate speech and giving your voice. And we also want to make sure that we are creating not safe as in just like verbal safe, but also physical safeness so that a student doesn't feel like they are in physical harm's way.
What are your thoughts on trigger warnings on syllabuses?
That is also one of my initiatives as well, trigger warnings. I think that they should be discussed in the classroom.
All right. And the recent provost search highlighted the push for DePaul to become more research focused over its previous stance. Do you believe the university should increase its research efforts?
I believe that the university has a good research effort right now. I believe that they could always expand on that as well. I know personally within my school, which is the Computing and Digital Media School, that we have a very hands-on approach, but we also have a very research approach as well, as where we have to look at things and understand how they work within our fields. And so I feel that DePaul could always improve, but they have laid the groundwork for such.
Mm-hmm. And one of the hottest issues on campus, especially the past few months, and this is also a national issue, has been this issue of adjunct unionization. at DePaul, there are multiple unions trying to unionize contingent faculty and term faculty on campus. What are your thoughts on that? Should adjuncts have the ability to unionize, and should the university work to provide them additional support?
The university is looking at this very thoroughly as a student and a person going into the position of academic affairs. This is more of a faculty issue, but what I can do is ask students what their concerns are and relate them as much as possible to the right people.
Mm-hmm. But don't you think it is an issue that's important for SGA, because after all, adjuncts do bring different experiences that perhaps regular professors do not, and their issues may be of concern for students that are being taught by them.
Absolutely, absolutely. This is a concern for students. I have even talked with the current president about the adjunct faculty and what SGA is doing about the issue. And just relating it back to what I said previously, it is more of a faculty admin issue and something that I just have to keep relaying and pushing forward to.
Okay. So just to be clear, this is not an issue that SGA should kind of butt in on, either for or against.
It's more of a, like, here's the administration, here's the university, and here's SGA. We are students and we are trying to convey ourselves as much as possible, but there's only so much we have a say in when it comes to this issue.
Mm-hmm. And that's another question too, because obviously DePaul is very prided itself on shared governance. Mm-hmm. You have the faculty council for the faculty, and you have the administration, and then obviously you have student government. Mm-hmm. What role do you think that the student government should play in that shared governance structure when it comes to academic issues?
Academic issues? Well, I am going into the position of academic affairs, and I do sit on these councils representing roughly around 24,000 students. So I believe that within this position that I will be able to relate and tell what needs to be done, as in of intention, quote, what must be done. So that is one way I can work within academic affairs.
And kind of staying on the same topic, with regards to teaching evaluations, mm-hmm. There's been a big push past few years at SGA to open course evaluations for students to see when they're picking their courses. And do you support these, and why has it anymore? Why have they had trouble gaining steam among some of the colleges? What further can be done that hasn't been tried already? Because some colleges have been more transparent about it and others have not.
Mm-hmm. I know, again, really back and being personal about this, I know that the CDM students have had course evaluations for over 10 plus years, and it has worked to really have accountability and evaluations for our teachers. We just recently got the honors program to implement course evaluations. And I think we are going to continue to push for the colleges that don't have the course evaluations in it, because I feel like this is a very good thing for our students to have.
Mm-hmm. And then can you please identify a couple areas where SGA can work with the university administration to achieve some positive change for students?
Absolutely. Could you say that one more time?
What are some areas that student government can work with the university administration to make positive change for students?
Especially in this climate that we're having right now, one way that we can work with the administration to have a positive change around here on campus is in the area of public safety. There has been a lot of attacks and issues on campus lately, and I feel like SGA can relate more to the administration on what we can do to make it better, whether that's increasing the boundaries of public safety, whether that's increasing our patrols or surveillance, just to make sure that the students on campus feel like they have a safe place to learn.
Mm-hmm. And then can you identify an area or two where you may disagree with current administration policies and be willing to challenge them?
I feel as though previous leadership has done a great job at laying the groundwork and the foundation for having this with race and racial issues, but I feel like we can take a deeper approach to it, in which we can look at how we can effectively make sure every single group, not just the minorities, but every single non-traditional as well, make them feel like they are included in the whole entire DePaul affinity spirit. No, not really. I'm just glad that I was able to express my initiatives and how we as a cabinet are going to move forward.
All right. Well, Michael Greene, thank you very much.
Thank you.
He is running for academic affairs.
Executive
Vice President for Academic Affairs.
Yes.
Well, thank you very much for answering our questions.
Thank you.
And best of luck to you.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, then our next candidate up is going to be Andrew Willett, who is running for Executive Vice President for Student Affairs. Yeah,
hello.
Hi, how are you?
Good, how are you?
Good.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, thank you for coming down and doing
My
this.
pleasure.
Yeah. So I guess briefly say for the audience out at home, what year are you? What's your major?
So I'm a first year student right now, a freshman. I'm a public relations and advertising major with a minor in marketing.
All right, and then please explain what your experience is with SGA and other student organizations, and then go on and name your top 3 initiatives.
So I'm currently in student government. I'm the senator for first year students representing all freshmen and other first year students. I'm in DePaul's PRSSA chapter, which is the Public Relations Student Society of America. It's a PR pre-professional organization. I'm the vice president of membership services with that. I'm the first ever chair of the Blue Demon Week Committee. The Blue Demon Committee is a new committee that has just got, I guess you could say, invented or created within OSI, Office of Student Involvement. So I will be the head of that planning committee. And I've done work with some of the DePaul ambassadors as well.
And then in your current role this year, and you were Senator for first year students, how did you actively engage with students, and how will you improve upon this in the upcoming year? Because first year, when you're Senator for first year, that you have that opportunity to really engage students, because they're all on campus. So do you just go over that, how you'll do that, and how you'll improve upon it?
So as a first year student, like you said, I do have a lot of opportunity with all of the first year students most of the first year students being on campus. So I use the res halls to my advantage. I would talk to people within res halls, campaign in res halls, just really spend a lot of time in the res halls, as well as the student center, because we all have meal plans, and that's where we have to go to get our food, and we have to eat to stay alive. So I mainly worked the residence halls as well as the student center. And then I plan to do the same thing as candidate for executive vice president of student affairs. I see the STU as one of the central hubs of the DePaul campus in Lincoln Park, also the 11th floor of the DePaul Center. And most of the Loop campus is very centralized because it's everything's built up. There's a lot of central parts. So utilizing the common spaces within the university that a lot of people can relate to using those central spaces.
And as mentioned in the previous interview, it is a very heated political time,
right?
With the election coming up. There have been several incidents on campus, including the chalking that just happened about a month ago. And then there's been a lot of rhetoric in some of the class groups on Facebook.
Right.
And they've kind of divided some students on the issues of safety, race, politics, free speech. How will you actively work to address these issues going forward?
Right. So we've worked closely with Father Holschneider, and most of the DePaul community has seen the email that he sent that went out about free speech, racial issues, and all the stuff that has happened on campus. So it's my belief that as a university and any academic institution is that we are able to create dialogue, educate one another, and discuss that. I know DePaul is very, very big on talking about issues. So I would promote the idea of free speech, because that is something that every human within the United States, in my opinion, and every human in the world should have the right to, and we are lucky to have that in the United States. So I believe in the freedom of speech, and with that, we can create some healthy dialogue and talk about it.
And kind of going off of that, in the next few weeks, there's going to be a controversial speaker coming on campus, brought in by the college Republicans. I'm going to botch his name, but Milo.
Yes.
Yeah, him. Yes.
Yes.
And he said some very controversial things. The Republicans are saying free speech. Some other groups on campus are saying hate speech. What is the SGA's role in terms of addressing both of those concerns? Because it seems like a very fine line. Does the SGA have a role to step in and create a dialogue or say this is wrong, this is right?
In our current student body or current general body of SGA, there's multiple opinions, multiple different backgrounds and stuff like that. And we have relayed our concerns, but also about this opportunity. And so going along with free speech, decided to not cancel the event. They're going to go through with it. So I would say student government stance is that we are going to be a resource for students to come to if they feel they need to talk about something or something offended them. We are more than happy to be there for them and direct them to the right areas, offices, and resources that the university provides to deal with some of those issues. Dialogue.
Okay. And so it's just mean more of diverting people to the right people, not necessarily like having a forum or something like that.
Right. Part of student government, our main goal is advocacy and representing the close to 24,000 students that are here. Therefore, we realize that my personal beliefs may not line up exactly with somebody else who is one of my constituents. But because I'm a representative, I have to listen to them and be a resource for them as much as I'm a resource for someone that I do agree with on certain political issues. So taking that, I have to be the devil's advocate and everybody equally.
Members of the Feminist Front, which is a group on campus devoted to feminist issues, has brought up some issues of students being accused of sexual assault being moved around from dorm to dorm when they've been accused. They say some of these people have been repeat offenders. Do you think that the university is doing enough to support survivors? And do you think the SGA, how do you see SGA kind of fitting into that role and that contentious issue?
Right. So I can tell you that under Title IX, it's a federal regulation and law that student identities must be protected until the student is out of school. Then Title IX does not cover that student anymore. Right now, the school policy is a offender is put into a different living situation that is, solo. It's not confined, but it's solitary. It's only them. So that person is removed from the situation, removed from other people for their living situation, and their identity is kept confidential for everybody's privacy because some people are uncomfortable with all that stuff being public, and so we have to go by federal law and respect that and follow that. So SGA's role in that right now is just to educate people on the university's policy, but at the same time hear what our constituents are saying and relay concerns to the administration.
And then there have been, obviously student affairs is for the students as it is in
Exactly.
Many groups in the past have felt unrepresented by student government. How do you plan to reach out to different groups and gather their concerns? Because sometimes these groups aren't necessarily they need to look a little harder to find them. How do you kind of find those groups and make sure that they feel represented by their student government?
Yeah. So first and foremost, we invite everyone to our general body meetings. It is an open door policy that they can come in and sit on the gallery. So that's always out there, and we market that with our weekly, advertisement graphics on our social media and stuff like that. So they can, if they feel the need, they want to talk to us, then there's that information out there on how to get in contact with us and come see us. But also, I think more than that, being in this position, it does take a certain level of taking that first step and going forward and stuff like that. So my plan is to continue student leader roundtables as well as visit other organizations, and collaborate with other organizations as well. So like BSU and a couple other organizations, they do their, I'll just use BSU as an example. We collaborate them with voter registration. So that's something I'm going to continue, but at the same time, maybe work with Urban Farmers Organization because we do have a say in some of the sustainability that goes on campus. That's more Adrianna, who's running for operations. That's her area, but we can still, as reach out to that organization, bring them in, kind of see what some of their ideas are for sustainability and how we can relay that to the university and stuff like that. So yeah, just do collaboration of events.
And then can I identify some areas where you can work with the administration to achieve change?
Yeah, so I can work really closely with the Division of Student Affairs. There's a lot of representatives in there that I have access to as a resource. And so if I have any concerns that I hear from my constituents or concerns of my own or ideas of my own, I can go directly to them.
Mm-hmm. And kind of going off of that, are there any areas where you may disagree with the administration and be willing to challenge them?
Yeah, I don't have any disagreements with them currently, but yes, I do feel that the university does provide a safe space for disagreement and healthy dialogue, and I'm more than willing to go there if needed.
Anything to add for the record?
No, if you guys want to check out our Facebook page, we'd be more than happy to help. It's Omar, Andrew, Michael, Adrianna, 2016-17 for SGA cabinet. Yeah,
thank you, Andrew.
I'm a PR major in advertising. It's what I have to do.
Yep. So that's Andrew Willett. He is a candidate for student affairs.
Student affairs. Yep. Thank you. It was a pleasure.
Right, thank you. I have Adrianna Kemper, who is running for executive vice president for operations. Adrianna. Hey, how are you?
Lovely. How are you?
I am well, thank you. So I guess briefly, state
who I am?
Yeah, no, who you are. No, your major and your year.
Yes, so I'm a junior here at DePaul studying environmental studies with a concentration in sustainability and a minor in economics.
And name your experience. I can't talk anymore. Name your top 3 initiatives as well as your past experience with SGA and any other student groups.
Definitely. So some of my top 3 initiatives are focusing definitely on public safety, sustainability, and developing a more campus affinity around here and seeing more blue on campus because who doesn't like that. And then other organizations that I'm in here at DePaul, I'm a Greene team supervisor, so we advocate for sustainable practices within the residence halls, so that's part of the EDGE program, so that really gives me a nice way to interact with freshmen. And then I'm also a campus tour guide, so that's always a lot of fun and interactive with students, so you get to see that. And I also like to go visit other different organizations whenever I have the chance, just to get to know other people, and I like being that active voice where if anyone has a question, comment, concern, like just reach out to me and I'll try to go to wherever I can.
And now you're an incumbent. You're currently in this role. You're currently the EVP of operations, running for a second year in the same position. So I guess bluntly, why do you deserve a second year as EVP of operations?
I definitely thought that at the beginning of the year it was kind of difficult getting into the position, and then I finally understood and realized the different things that I could improve upon in order to make my term more efficient. And then that's also really great knowledge for me to know in order to do it again next year. So I know the people to contact, I know the different issues on campus, and kind of just understanding like how the whole process works and the time constraints and how to set up events. So that's a learning tide, and I definitely think in this position I can be a lot more effective next year.
Mm-hmm. And you placed a big emphasis on sustainability issues, I know. What are some other issues you want to work on going forward?
I definitely want to develop a comprehensive sustainability or safety tips campaign because of the climate that's currently going on and a lot of different things happening within the city of Chicago, kind of understanding and letting students know this is the city, there are dangers that are happening. How can we be more informed as students within the city? What can DePaul also do in order to help students feel more safe on campus too? So this past spring quarter, we had one of our CAPS meetings was a self-defense course and just having those rudimentary skills on how to see the situation. We also had a police officer come in and talk about what they see and what they do and how the cities on the streets or the streets in the city, how they approach different safety measures too. So it was very educational and it was very engaging and fun. So I definitely would love to continue that because I think hands-on engaging actions is definitely what's going to teach students and really get them to understand Chicago and DePaul.
And you kind of touched upon it, but the last few weeks have highlighted some issues of safety near campus and just in the city in general, with some DePaul students getting attacked and whatnot. What are some specific ways SGA can help students stay safe, other than the Vinny Van, which is awesome. But
thank you. We like Vinny Van. Go Vinny Van. But I definitely think reaching out to other student organizations and seeing what they can. I just mentioned kind of developing sustainable or safety tips, not sustainability tips, but kind of developing that and seeing and giving people that upfront knowledge. It's hey, you shouldn't walk in a dark room. Have this different friend with you when you're walking. There's also a really good application called Companion, and although DePaul hasn't endorsed it, you can use it for free, and it's just like it tells your friend like you're walking with them. So there's a lot of different measures that we could do, and also kind of just like public safety is there by your side. If something happens to you, you need to know, like, here's the telephone number for you to call, and they'll be there for you too. So just kind of like letting people know that these resources are available and having that open.
So we kind of touched upon in a few of the interviews, some students don't necessarily feel safe on campus, just with the climate that's going on right now, and essentially the charge at law enforcement. What are some ways this SGA can work with public safety to improve the relationship between public safety and with the various communities on campus?
I kind of don't. So like public safety with communities on campus, like in regards to like safety issues.
Yeah, just how do you better build a relationship? Because some groups on campus don't. They don't feel safe going to public safety because they don't trust public safety. How do you kind of foster that dialogue?
Just letting them know that they can call and it can be confidential, and then also directing them to other resources on campus too. Say if they don't feel comfortable going to public safety immediately, they can also go to health promotion and wellness and go to a lot of different, so many different resources confidentially with for some more of those sensitive issues. And if public safety, if you don't feel comfortable talking to them, please reach out to me or anyone who has my position in future years. I am that liaison. If there's a problem, please reach out to me. I had someone go to Office of Student Involvement the other day, and they're like, hey, I want to talk to the person with minivan. And then I sent them an email because she gave me the email. So it's a very quick response rate. Like if you have any questions, comments, concerns, just like email me. I get little text messages on my telephone so I can respond very quickly and really be that engaging person with students and interacting. If you have questions, just ask.
Kind of goes into the next question. Describe a time when a student came to you with a problem and you came up with a solution.
Like that, like just reaching out to students and letting them know that I'm there. I haven't necessarily had a lot of people come up with problems. The other day, my friend told me that they were really, like, you can't use, there's one scanner in the library that you have to pay for, so I'm bringing that up at facility operations tomorrow. So definitely just like if you have a problem that is related to my positions or any position within student government in general, letting them know that I'm here to talk to, and then I know the people who to talk to in order to kind of resolve that or bring that into conversation to see if that can develop in future years.
And I guess I should have done this at the beginning, but can you give a broad overview of what operations does? Because people think operations. What does that person do?
It's like, just give me a call when the elevator's not working. I deal hand in hand with public safety. So I help organize minivan for every midterm and finals week, so that's really cool. And then we also set up CAPS meetings, which is Chicago Alternative Policing Strategies, and that's engaging students with like what is safety in Chicago and what is safety on campus. Then I also work with sustainability, so like anything physical on campus, and my part is in sustainability and reducing our anthropogenic impact on the environment. So I can work with facility operations in regards to that, and like, hey, can we see more like recycling bins on campus? I know our Senator for Sustainability this past year really emphasized on that. So kind of helping sustainability senator foster that on campus and have that environment here too. I also just developed an Earth Week committee, and they had it a couple of years ago, but they haven't done that. So really bringing that sense of environmentalism onto campus and making sure people understand that this is an important issue. So that's a big thing. And then also, like I mentioned, just anything physical on campus. So like seeing more blue. I advocated to get more blue flowers on campus. So hopefully we'll be seeing those soon. It's been kind of like the weather. Hopefully those will be coming soon. And then seeing other ways in order to incorporate that to really feel that affinity towards our university, because it is amazing.
And obviously we've been, the university's been going through a lot of building lately. They're building the new stadium down by McCormick Place, and they broke ground on the new School of Music.
Yeah.
I was wondering if you're involved in any of that, those discussions about how to make those buildings, I guess, sustainable, plant flowers or whatever.
Yeah.
Are you not in those conversations?
Architectural plans prior to I even thought about coming. It's really cool. the new music school building. They reconstructed it and recycling all the different metals, so then other buildings can use those in the future. Then it's going to be a LEED certified gold, so that's also indicating that it's reducing its anthropogenic impact on the environment. They also said that DePaul is planning on making all new buildings LEED certified, so that's really cool.
Mm-hmm. And then identify an area where you can work in your position with the university administration to affect positive change for students.
So I definitely think that kind of incorporating more of a dialogue with the students in order to see what they want to see, like in sustainability, like how would you want the sustainability fund allocated? Like what are some cool new things that are green that you could see on campus that can be improved? A lot of people complain about the Wi-Fi, just like, emphasizing like, hey, this place isn't working that well, or, trying to develop that, good Wi-Fi for the students. But it's really hard when you have so many kids in one area, or I mean, young adults. But yeah, there's a lot of different things that we could work with the administration in order to develop, but because of money, it is a timely and costly process, but just letting them know and emphasizing that it is on the radar, they understand it, and they're also very nice and like susceptible to hearing like what our concerns are, because the administration, they aren't students, and they really like to hear what we have to do, and they appreciate our voice too.
Mm-hmm. And then what's an area you may disagree with the administration and be willing to challenge them on?
So far this past year, I haven't had necessarily any disagreements. They tell me, like if I ask a question, they'll tell me what, like why they can't do it or why they can do it, or like different history behind things like that. So they're very like engaging, and if they do have any disagreements, they do like kind of like what Andrew said earlier, they do foster that really great dialogue in order for students to like feel comfortable when you kind of bring up something that they don't. So they want to hear our voices, and they want to hear what our experiences here at DePaul, and then kind of relate that to their careers.
Anything like that for the record?
Thank you so much for having us. This is so much fun. And if you guys ever have any questions, concerns, please reach out to us. We're kind of friendly people.
Thank you. Adrianna Kemper, who's running for re-election for Executive Vice President of Operations. Thank you so much, Adrianna.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. And next, last but not least, for the cabinet candidates before we get to Vice President, is Omar Escamilla. Did I get that right?
Yeah.
Escamilla. I'm going to keep getting that wrong. But he's running for treasurer. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. Thank you.
Great. Can you briefly tell people at home your year and your major?
Yeah. My major is organizational communication, and a minor in intercultural communication and educational studies.
Perfect. And can you describe your previous experience with SGA, other student groups, and then go over your top 3 initiatives?
Definitely. So this is my first year at DePaul University. I transferred from college at DuPage. While I was there, I served as student trustee and was a part of the student government at my previous institution. Currently at DePaul, I'm involved in obviously student government, the transfer student union. I sit on the e-board, and I'm also part of Alpha Phi Omega, which is a service fraternity on campus.
Mm-hmm. Perfect. And then can you go over some of your top initiatives for the role?
Definitely. So my top 3 initiatives, my first one is working with scholarships. I really want to foster kind of this bridge between student government. I really want to ensure that all students are aware of the different scholarships we have available. There's a portal called Scholarship Connect that not a lot of students are familiar with. And that's internal and external scholarships that are available for DePaul students. And I just want to ensure that people are aware of this program that we have available. We're all students, and we know that school is very expensive. So anything that alleviates the cost, I think that's something that I want to advocate for. Secondly, working with SAFB funding. So SAFB, for those who are not familiar with, is the student fee that is used by organizations. So that's part of the money that $25 out of your tuition that goes for student involvement organizations and helping like funding all these like different projects that they have. Mm-hmm. And my third one is working with education affordability. And then again, one of my segues would be working with the financial aid office. And like we've been working every single year advocating for the MAP grant.
Mm-hmm. Perfect. And first question, this is the first question for anybody running for treasurer. What experience do you have handling budgets?
Definitely. So like I mentioned, my previous institution, being a student trustee, I sat with the board of trustees, and we have to approve budgets and any expenditures the college is making. So while I was there, I had a lot of training on how to read these budget plans, how to ensure that everything's being transparent and available to students and faculty and anyone that's going to be dealing with this money or that's going to get impact. So that's where I got a lot of my experience from. And then along with the position, I was also working in Springfield with the Illinois Community College Board, and I sat in the budgeting committee. So what we were doing there is we were ensuring that all the funding that was going to community colleges for student involvement programs was being allocated, transparent, that all the numbers matched up.
Mm-hmm. And you just mentioned it, but how transparency is a big thing, especially when it comes to money. How will you improve transparency in terms of the SGA budget, in terms of letting students know where some of their tuition dollars are going? It's not a large amount, but still, it's an amount that still matters.
No, I think every dollar matters.
Absolutely.
So currently what we have, every quarter we have the current treasurer show the budget, and that's available through the meetings that we have. And like Andrew mentioned, the meetings are open to anyone. So if any student wanted to come in, see the budget, we can definitely have that highlighted. If I were to be sitting as a treasurer, I would also be available for anyone who has a question and would want to sit down and talk about the budget, see where all the expenditures are going, how we're allocating fundings.
Currently, Campus Connect to get it, but DePaul currently posts some of its budget documents on its website. Do you envision doing something like that for the SGA website?
Definitely, that's something we can look into. We really haven't had that discussion, but that's definitely something that I could see potentially doing, and I think it would be just great for transparency, like you mentioned. And it's just very important for, I think, all students to know exactly where their money's going. Like I mentioned, school is a lot of money, so we want to ensure that every dollar is counting.
Mm-hmm. And then are due earlier now this year. How will you work with to support students in this transition?
Definitely. So every year we have the meme that you probably see every year, which is keep calm under your FAFSA. So this year we're definitely going to have to be pushing that much sooner. And we've already been working with how the planning process is going to go. We want to ensure that students are very aware of this change because they're knowledgeable, and pushing that graphic, sharing on our social media, sharing with our constituents is going to be super important. And we definitely want to work with a lot of different departments. So financial aid would be dealing with this issue to ensure that all these students are getting this awareness.
And obviously right now, Illinois is in a financial crisis and a political crisis. And it's kind of held up a lot of funding, especially for higher education. The state just recently passed, I believe, half the amount that was originally allocated for math grants, but they still need to get the other half. And that obviously has a big effect on DePaul students. DePaul is the top recipient of private school recipient of math grants in Illinois. How will you work? You mentioned working with financial aid to identify ways to save money for students. What are some specific things that you will try to do to help students find scholarships or save some money, especially with these challenging times, financial times, especially with the state?
Definitely. So like you mentioned, DePaul does have a large recipient rate of MAP funding. That's, I think, 4,500 students, so that is a large number. Then we want to ensure every single student counts. We want everyone to be able to attend school. And obviously the financial burden of having higher education is very tough. So we want to ensure that any way the student government can do to alleviate the problem, we're here to help. Like I mentioned, working with the financial aid department, I really want to ensure that Scholarship Connect is very available to students. So actual application process when applying to university, having that as one of the options. So congratulations, you've been accepted, look at some scholarships. That's definitely one of the things I see. Like you mentioned, because fully funded, the trustees here at DePaul University did decide to cover the funding for the next 2 years, which is just helping out all the students. That just has been great. And we're so lucky to be in a university that is available to make those decisions and help out these students. So working with the board of trustees, keeping that conversation going, I think having MAP in the forefront of anything we do, with any conversation we keep, is just so important. Ensuring constituents are aware of MAP and letting them know that although they might not be recipients, MAP impacts everyone. And we've been doing that through our advocacy work, our rallies, and just different tabling events we've had both here on Lincoln Park campus and Willett campus.
And briefly explain SAFB a little bit, because students have heard the term probably, but they probably don't fully understand it. So explain that a little bit and explain your role in that.
Definitely. So SAFB, like I mentioned, that's $25 out of your tuition that goes towards kind of this bit pot of money, and that's basically allocated to different student organizations, and that's used. Well, we can pick any organization on campus. They can apply for funding for if they're going to do a special program, a project, or if they're just doing a big event. And staff funding, we really want to ensure that all these students are able to uphold the mission and values of what their respective organization holds. So when they apply for this funding, there is a whole application process. And my role as treasurer, I would be the chair of the board. So I'd be working with multiple, there's, I believe, 8 other students sitting in the board from other organizations. And then we have 2 students who are just there, kind of just to ensure everything is going well, dialogue is kept active. And through that application, they can attest to why it's important for their organization and how it's helping affinity and getting students connected.
And then what are some ways that that process can be improved? Because there's always ways to improve.
No, definitely. So far what we have is we every quarter, I want us to do 3 to 4, maybe even more, kind of tutorials on how the whole application process works. So we encourage all student organization members, most importantly their president and their treasurer, to attend these meetings just to ensure that they know how the application process works, what needs to be done. They have everything set on time because we do run on schedule. The way very strict with time frame. So I really want to ensure that they know all these dates. And I just kind of want to be a resource to any of the presidents or treasurers on campus, even before or after the actual SAFB. I want to ensure that they are fully aware of how the application process works. They have all their questions answered, and everything just runs smoothly, because it's going to be easier for them and easier for us to ensure that the communication process just works very well.
And can you identify some areas where you can work with the university administration to affect positive change for students?
Yeah, definitely. So still keeping SAFB, we really want to advocate to keep that. Obviously, we need the money to get all our organizations to grow and get more students involved. That's basically one of our main initiatives in SGA, is getting student involved in promoting affinity. So I definitely want to see SAFB staying where it's at, having that money, like I mentioned, to have that versatility to engage students through multiple organizations, finding multiple interests. I think it's just so important.
And then where's an area you may disagree with the administration and be willing to challenge them?
Here, through my position, I really haven't had that I've completely disagreed on. However, if anything were to come up, myself and I believe people sitting in SGA were willing to step up and advocate for the best interests of the students. That's what we're here for. That's our job. And we're, like I mentioned, we have an open door policy. If you run into us, any student, anyone can come up to us and let us know any concerns they might have. And although we may not personally be against it, we can definitely bring up your concerns and find the correct people to talk to.
Would you like to add for the record?
Thank you so much for having us. We're so excited to share initiatives. And like we mentioned, we're super friendly people. So if you see us walking anywhere, feel free to stop us, ask us any questions, and we're here to help.
All right. Omar Escamilla?
Escamilla.
I'm not going to get that right. I don't know. But he's running for treasurer for student government. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me.
So last but not least, we're going to have, this is going to be a longer interview. We're going to have the candidate for vice president, Megan Scoville.
Hello.
Hi, Megan. How are you?
Good. How are you?
Good. And Megan is running on the ticket with Ric Popp, who's running for president, but he could not be here tonight. Where's Ric tonight?
He's in Philadelphia, I believe, for a rowing event. He's on the DePaul rowing team, so he's sorry that he couldn't make it tonight. But.
All right. So I apologize ahead of time because I think you're going to be answering for both of you. So
sure, no problem. I'll do what I can.
Yeah. So you just want to kind of briefly say your year and your major, and then Ric's as well, and then you could name your top 3 initiatives.
Yeah. So I am a junior currently in the College of Science and Health. I am currently serve as the senator for the College of Science and Health. My major is health sciences. And Ric is also a junior. He's a student in the business school, and he currently serves as the vice president for student government. So we have several initiatives, but 3 of our top are SGAs and advocates. So we believe that as SGA's official role, being the official liaison between students and the administration, we take that very seriously, and we want to make sure that we are hearing the voices of all students and not just some. So we're excited to find new and creative ways to hear the voices of students and relay those to the administration in a way that is the most effective. Another one is inclusivity and collaboration. We recognize that DePaul has more than 300 student organizations, and each of them have a very unique mission and purpose on campus. And we believe that there's never enough collaboration between those organizations to ensure that we're reaching with those important missions, and that if we have programming that's similar to another group, then why not collaborate and reach more students? So we are excited to expand that as well. And number 3 would be educational affordability and resources. So it's important that every DePaul student is able to have a good experience, and sometimes financial things can get in the way of that. So the MAP grant has been that has really expanded in the last year because of the big budget impasse in Springfield. So we want to continue and even expand that advocacy here at DePaul, and even through the state of Illinois. We really want to maintain our status as a leader within that mission. And then also recognizing that DePaul has so many different resources for academics, and sometimes students might not know about them. So we want to use our position to make sure that students know about those resources and can access them in the easiest way possible.
This is a little blunt question to start, but
okay.
why are you guys qualified to run for this position? And how are you and Ric plan to be different from past SGA president/vice president?
Yeah, I think I can speak for Ric as well when I say this, that we are both incredibly passionate about the mission and values of this university. We really see the Vincentian mission and values as setting DePaul kind of aside as an incredible institution, and we think it's really important that students are involved in all these conversations. We believe that our past experiences within SGA and outside of them really do qualify us for this position. I've been involved with things like Peer Health Exchange, which is an organization on campus. I've served as a Chicago Quarter mentor. I work on campus as a desk receptionist in the residence halls. So I've held a number of different leadership positions that have allowed me to interact with several different students. And Ric has, as well as VP of Student Government Organization. He's also served as an EVP the year before for a short time, and in other capacities within this organization, and serves on different leadership roles as well. So something that we recognize is that we cannot take our own opinions and our own beliefs as those of everybody at the university. We both recognize that we need to listen to those around us, and we can't speak for them unless we are hearing them and relaying those concerns, even if they might differ from our own. So I think that makes us very much qualified for this position. In terms of being different than previous administrations, we are really excited to make SGA as accessible as possible, and we recognize things like student turnout at our weekly meetings is relatively low. So how can we increase that and get more students involved with our weekly meetings? How can we make them more aware of what our initiatives are and how they can express those concerns to us if they think we could be doing something differently or more effectively? And as well as reaching those populations that have had a harder time accessing SGA, such as graduate students and adult students. So we recognize those concerns and are excited to move forward to effect positive change.
All right. And a large part of the role of president, even vice president, is their position within the shared governance structure.
Yeah.
Presidents and vice presidents sit on a lot of boards and committees and whatnot, including probably the most important one, SRAC, the Strategic Resources Allocation Committee. I think
yes.
I got it. Which sets the budget every year. And so what is yours and what is Ric's philosophy on how to represent the interests of students in these very important capacities in the university?
Yeah, I think we recognize that college is extremely expensive, and when it comes to those like setting budgets, setting the tuition, we recognize that none of the students really want that. I don't see why anybody would. So even just continuously recognizing that students are concerned about educational affordability and voicing those concerns at those, I think those are actually things that a lot of students don't recognize that we do. And so making that more vocal in terms of, we sit on track, and if you have any specific concerns, since we are your representatives, please let us know what we could do. We can reach you more in terms of what we're saying and what you would like us to say.
A few times, I heard that quite the past few years. Reach out. Are there any ways that SGA can improve its reaching out to students, be proactive in its outreach instead of the students coming to their
expand is we do something like a meet and greet every quarter where SGA representatives will be in the atrium, and we'll have some kind of fun activity where students can stop by. I would like those to be utilized more. It seems like a lot of people stop by and like grab the ice cream that we have or whatever, and a lot of times they'll grab it and go. So making it more known that that is a space where we are there for you to share those concerns with us, and we want to hear them. I think social media is a really good tool that we could be using more effectively in terms of advertising when and where our meetings are, and publishing our emails like we do on the SGA website, publishing the SGA website more so people know where those resources are. I think that there's definitely steps that we could take to make SGA more accessible to people instead of them always having to reach out to us. Yeah.
And then in recent years, SGA administrations have oftentimes made a lot of the impact known behind the scenes within the university. Some have criticized this strategy as some controversies have gone by at the university, and student government seemingly takes no stance. This is in contrast to, say, Loyola, where some of their student government representatives, I think, got suspended over protests they did. So I just want to get your thoughts on in activist student government versus the student government that works behind the scenes. Is it helpful or hurtful to have an act? Is there a right balance between being outspoken and perhaps working within the administration to change things?
Yeah, definitely. I think that there are strengths and weaknesses to both sides of that. I think for me, the reason why, so I think SGA takes the stance of we serve as the official liaison between students and administration. So we are always doing what we can to relay those messages to the administration. And in terms of an activist type of SGA, if SGA takes an official stance on something, then that might be on something super controversial. We might be excluding some students that we represent, even though they might disagree with what like the popular idea within SGA is. So I think that there is a balance of recognizing that we do need to take a stance on some important issues, but at the same time, we can't take too strong a stance where we're excluding some of the 24,000 students that we represent, because we represent everybody and we want to make sure that we're taking that seriously.
Mm-hmm. This kind of goes into the next question. I asked earlier to one of the other candidates about some of the incidents that have happened on campus lately with regards to whether it's the chalking or just some of the divisive rhetoric we're seeing on social media, whether it's about bringing up safety, race, politics, free speech, whatever it might be. How will you and Ric address some of these issues?
So I am really excited because the president and vice president both sit on the PDC, on the President's Diversity Council. So I think that that's a way where we can be using our voice to represent the students at that table where a lot of those decisions are being made. What we do recognize is that speech is an important value, and we think it's important that students are feeling safe on campus, but that there are also those safe spaces where people are able to voice those opinions, even if they are not necessarily the majority. Again, since we represent all students, we can't ignore some of those voices. So while things like the Milo be a little bit disappointing in terms of some of the rhetoric that is being used, it wouldn't be for us to advocate for canceling an event when that's a space for students to be voicing their opinions, even though, again, we might find it disappointing or hurtful. As long as students are able to be physically safe on campus, and we're doing what we can to bring student leaders together and talk about ways to work on the steps that Father H sent out in an email that the administration, in combination with BSU and other organizations on campus, to make sure that the community is working together to recognize these issues.
Mm-hmm. On the same thread, this year SGA held a rally in support of MAP grants down at the Thompson Center, with other student governments. Outside of MAP, do you believe it's SGA's role to take a hard stance, which could include protests on certain issues? I know you mentioned, how it might exclude some students, but is that sometimes a necessary thing for SGA for issues that may not be as common sense as MAP?
It's an issue where we are getting an absolute majority of students telling us that it is something that they care about and that needs to be taken action on. We wouldn't be afraid to, and like an official stance, a very rigid stance on something, but I think that it would take a lot for us to get there. So in terms of MAP, we recognize that MAP affects everybody. It's going to affect everybody's tuition dollars. It's going to affect not just at DePaul, but within the state. And we recognize that is extremely important for all students. So it would have to be an issue where everybody would be extremely affected. And there are those issues. So as they come our way, we're not afraid to take a hard look at them and see what GA can do to advocate for those students.
Mm-hmm. And another question that we asked earlier, but still important for your role, but the feminist front has brought up some issues regarding students accused of sexual assault being moved from dorm to dorm after they've been accused. They say some of these people are repeat offenders, and so do you think that the university is doing enough currently to support these survivors, and do you think SGA has a role to play in that?
Yeah, so really enlightening experience for me this past year. Things like sexual assault are issues that I'm very, very passionate about. I've had the pleasure of sitting on the sexual and relationship violence prevention working group within the university as a student representative. And I've learned a lot about how federal law affects the way DePaul is able to implement policies. So specifically with the policy that FedFront has suggested, there are some logistical laws that DePaul isn't in certain ways. But I think that there's never enough work being done to ensure that students are safe on this campus and that they feel safe. So I think SGA definitely needs to have a role in facilitating those conversations about if this is not a plausible way to change this policy that is so important to students on campus, what can we do? Like, what would be an effective, is realistic for students, and how can we communicate that to the administration?
Mm-hmm. And then also related to sexual assault is the reporting process. How would you evaluate the process and the conduct hearing policies that comes with it, and what added for more students to clearly understand the process?
Yeah, so I know from my experiences as a CQM, the reporting process can be tricky in terms of like mandated reporters. Some students do not want to report what's happened to them for various reasons, and sometimes they're in a situation where they end up having to. So I think clearly identifying people within the university who are mandated reporters or who are reporters, such as within the Office of Health Promotion and Wellness, there are people there where people can go to confidentially. So making sure that we are publicizing those resources as much as we can, so that students know who they can go to for various things that are happening. In terms of the reporting process and the conduct, I think it's important that those are as open for students as possible. I don't know too much about what policies are listed on like a DePaul website or anything currently, but I think that it's important that DePaul is extremely open about those policies and why, not only that, but why they're in place. So for example, if there's a federal law that says this is something that has to be done, clarifying that.
Kind of on this thing, this is more about safety though.
Okay.
And obviously the past few weeks, I mean, DePaul student getting assaulted on the blue line,
Yeah.
Somebody getting a loop campus.
Yeah, it was very scary.
Scary. A lot of scary instances. What more can be done? How can SGA help in terms of helping students stay safe, whether they're on campus or off campus?
Yeah. The university really values SGA's voice, specifically like the EVP of operations position works very closely with public safety to relay those concerns. So there's, again, this is another issue where there's none to make sure that public safety is recognizing what students want and need. So SGA has a very specific role where we need to be identifying specific concerns or specific instances and asking directly the administration, what are you doing to make sure that this does not happen again? What steps are you taking? And what can we do as official student representatives to help you in the process of making sure that doesn't happen again?
And then last November, the city was thrown into crisis by the release of a video showing 17-year-old Laquan McDonald getting shot 16 times by police. It led to protests, which many DePaul students and faculty participated in. And this comes along with the events of the University of Missouri and a lot of other events that kind of open up the dialogue of race relations in our country and on campus. How do you plan to address those concerns? How do you and Ric plan to address those concerns and the concerns that students, especially minority students on campus, have with some of these issues that have been brought up in the past couple of years?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's important to recognize that. So especially like I'm not a person of color, so I cannot always speak to those. I can't ever speak to those experiences because those are not experiences that I've ever experienced. So it's incredibly important that we open the dialogue with those students who are affected by these issues directly and get their input in terms of what they would like to see us do as their official representatives, specifically working with groups like the Black Student Union and other groups on campus who advocate for the for minority students. We think SGA, since DePaul is part of a much larger urban climate, and that can't go unnoticed. It's important to recognize that in everything we do. So we have our eye on, and that we want to further the conversation on.
Mm-hmm. And then again, we're in an urban climate, and we're also in a climate of a state that's in a big crisis.
Yeah.
And obviously, that has a big impact on DePaul students, especially with the MAP program, which SGA has consistently advocated for. And it is been heavily PATH funded, and DePaul has said that they would cover the costs for this year and next year. But going forward, it's in limbo.
Yeah.
It seems like it is every year. Every year, SGA goes down to Springfield. Every year, SGA, they send a bunch of postcards to legislators, and they do a lot of advocacy around MAP. Is there any way that advocacy could change or be?
Yeah, I think the most important thing in this kind of environment is unification between all student governments across the state that are affected by these issues. So DePaul is unique in some way in that we are relatively cushioned by some of the impact that's happening right now because as a private university that is willing and able to cover those MAP grants for this year and for some of next year, whereas universities like Chicago State University are not so lucky. So recognizing that we're in this unique position where we can collaborate with other student governments or the equivalent on their campus to create a more unified way to address those concerns to our legislators. So we are absolutely willing to take a charge in that. I know that there's already some collaboration happening. So we're excited to dig deeper into that as this budget passes.
No one in sight.
I know.
No.
It's, yeah.
Heading back to campus, an issue that was brought up actually on your platform, your and Ric's platform, is course evaluations, making it more accessible. However, just from sitting in on many of the faculty council meetings, many faculty members have been reluctant to release that data, and there are still some questions on how that data gets used in terms of teaching assessments. So how do you plan to make course evaluations more accessible for students, and what role do you envision them playing in performance reviews for professors?
Yeah. We think they're incredibly important in performance reviews for professors. Students are the reason why DePaul exists, so they should absolutely have a say in how those performance reviews go by putting in their input through these course evaluations. In terms of how to continue to advocate for them, just talking to faculty one-on-one and saying, hey, this is something that students are passionate about, that we're passionate about. What if they're hesitant in passing those in the colleges that it's not currently, why not, and how can we address that? Because we think that it's just incredibly important for students to be able to see what they're doing. We think that that's very important.
And you think this is more of a college by college basis than anything?
What do you mean?
That because some colleges right now do have very accessible course evaluations, others don't. So you think it's more lobbying of perhaps the colleges that have been a little bit slow to release that data?
Yeah, I think yes, because we obviously want to get those passed and caught up to where the other colleges already are, but it's also continuing the conversation with the colleges who already have course evaluations and saying, how is this going? Is there a way that we can make this more known to students or more effective for you as well?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, in some of the faculty council discussions, there's been some focus on some of the questions on the course evaluations. Have you given any, or you and Ric given any thought to some of the questions on there and how they could perhaps be more effective and perhaps better evaluate teachers?
Yeah, I think that there's always room for improvement. I don't have a specific example off the top of my head, but that's something that is definitely constantly being thought about, is how can we make this for the purposes that we'd like to see it used. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And sticking with faculty, what are your thoughts on adjunct unionization?
Yeah, so we recognize that this is definitely a hot topic right now. We know that it's a very complicated issue that I know the administration is trying to kind of take a back seat on. They're really trying to let the faculty kind of figure it out. We representatives think it's important to relay those student concerns. And so if students have any specific concerns or any concerns at all about adjunct faculty and unionization, they can absolutely come talk to us and we are able to relay those concerns because that is definitely our role in this situation.
Do you think the administration has done enough to help adjuncts? Just a month ago, the provost released some new benefits for adjuncts. Do you think it's enough, or do you think that administration should do more to help support contingent faculty? Yeah,
so from what I understand, DePaul has a pretty good relationship compared to other universities in terms of benefits and pay for adjunct faculty. But again, there's always room for improvement. So just recognizing that there's always more space for that.
And obviously, one of the most visible things SGA does is on Thursday, you guys wear blue.
Yeah.
And that is one thing that you guys have done, I think, for the past year or two. I don't remember, but a couple of years. But what are some other tangible ways you can connect with students and increase campus affinity other than using the color blue? Because we always talk about campus affinity, but how do we actually make it happen?
Yeah. Something that I would like to see is we are very supportive of DePaul's various athletic teams. We would like to see more students getting involved by going to those games, making it more known when those games are and sponsoring more events like that, because I think athletics is a great way to get people really invested in DePaul. Another thing that I find interesting is DePaul is a relatively old university, but we don't have very many unique traditions like other universities do. So I'd really love to explore some other ways outside of things like Blue Demon Week, how we can increase affinity by creating these like rituals or things that make DePaul unique, that really draw everybody together to this common experience. Yeah.
Is there any issue that you or Ric feel the administration has yet to seriously address or could drastically improve upon? And if so, what is it and what can be done? If not, how come?
So you're asking if there's like a specific thing that the university hasn't addressed?
Yes.
We think that there's a lot of things that the university could be addressing. I don't think we have anything specific that I'd like to mention right now, but any student concern that becomes big enough to where we feel like we need to relay it to the students or to the administration is something that the administration should take seriously. And I think the administration does. I think we have a very unique relationship with our administration. So if anything specific does come up that I haven't already mentioned or that's not already within our initiatives, then yes.
And you mentioned kind of at the beginning, wanting to be more accessible to students, finding ways to reach out better.
Yeah.
One thing that many people, and actually a few people on Twitter who asked some questions, have brought up is the issue of transparency.
Yeah.
Currently, SGA laws or rules allow for secret votes to be held, and meeting minutes are currently not published on the website. So students who did not go would not be able to know what happened. Do you guys plan to support some transparency initiatives so more students can know what's going on with their student government?
Yeah, well, I would like to clarify that our meeting minutes are actually published on WorkSync, and that's a new initiative that has happened this past year. So students are actually able to access those minutes from meetings every week. We do think transparency is very important because we think that students that we're representing have a right to know what's going on. And so we're currently thinking about ways to make SGA a transparent space, while also making it a space where voting members feel comfortable voting for things that might be a little bit more controversial, because that is a concern that has happened in the past. And so weighing those two and seeing what's best for SGA at the moment is something that we are still considering and still willing to take suggestions on. If students have a specific thing that they would like to see change, we always want to hear those concerns.
So secret votes are still on the table. They're not. You guys aren't planning to change that anytime soon.
Not necessarily. We haven't decided that that's something that we want to completely abolish, because we think that there are some advantages to having those in certain votes. But again, we haven't set in stone to address that. Yeah, we're still be by our administration.
Mm-hmm. But then shouldn't students have the right to know how their elected officials are voting?
Yeah, I think so. And I think SGA members have always took the stance of students are absolutely always welcome to come up and ask how we're voting and why. I see that there is an issue in terms of accountability, because there is not a record of Megan Scoville voted this way on this ballot. But because of previous conflicts that have happened that have created SGA as like having open ballots aren't necessarily a great way to represent all the students. But that's also something that's happened in the past. So we're not sure quite yet how we want to handle that. But I do agree that students deserve to know finding the best way to do that is what we're figuring out right now.
Okay. What does it say about the importance of SGA if there's no mission for executive spots? You guys are all running unopposed.
Yeah.
Do you think that's a healthy thing?
So a lot of people have asked me like if I'm glad that we're running unopposed, and I don't think I necessarily am. It kind of feels like students should absolutely get to choose who their representatives are. What I do know is that I think especially Ric and I are extremely capable, and I wholeheartedly believe that we will take these positions seriously, and that our prior experiences and our knowledge and our vision for next year is something that I think a lot of students will find valuable and think is important. So while, yeah, does that answer your question?
Yeah, no, that's fine. Do you think that there's just a lack of student interest though, or do you think that there are ways that student government could perhaps be more open, like perhaps opening up the presidency to any student, not just somebody who's been in SGA?
Yeah, so I think specifically with president and vice president, that's interesting. Because I think it's interesting for those positions. It's important that they have a working knowledge of what SGA does and how it works in the different boards that we sit on and how meetings are run. So I do think that these are positions where it's important that there is some prior experience within the organization. For example, the EVP positions are all open to people who have never been in SGA before. All of the positions are open. Write-in candidates are absolutely willing to join the election during even election weeks. So be done in terms of stimulating student interest within SGA, but I do think it takes a special person to be interested in it. So finding how we can make this more visible to students is something that we want to explore, especially with the turnout of people who are running as candidates this year.
Anything you'd like to add for the record?
No, thanks so much for having us. We're extremely excited for the year ahead, and we're just really excited. So
absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, thank you.
Thank you so much.
That's Megan Scoville. She's running for vice president on a ticket with Ric Popp, who's running for president of Student Government Association. That does it for our interviews. Thank you so much for watching. Voting starts on Monday.